Alrighty then. What is up out there, everybody? This is your boy Back the Madness. I am here with a recently found, discovered friend. His name is Walt. Um, we uh, we met each other in a kind of a seminar. Uh, I reached out to him. He had I don't know if he got any response from anybody else, Walt, but he said he was going to reach out to me. He did. Probably was trying to going to sell me something, and we ended up deciding that we are gonna, get together and talk. So,
Yeah,
uh,
man. Thank you
why
for
don't you
having me on the show.
no problem. Why don't you introduce yourself? Tell us a little
Sure.
bit about yourself, and we'll get into what we're going to talk about.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, man. So, my name is Walter Hebert, and I'm the president of Promethean Link. And my website is prometheanlink.com. I do web services, artificial intelligence, and I'm getting into drone services. So, those are my three trifectas of technology. But mostly what we do is technology. I like the name Promethean because I love fire. I love the idea that artificial intelligence is like fire, and Link because that's what I do. I link things. If you got a website and you got a system, I want to connect them. I like making connections.
Nice. Now, I didn't ask you this before, and I actually do love the name Promethean. It sticks. In fact, after I had heard the name Promethean, I think in the very beginning I was like I couldn't remember exactly what it was. But where exactly does that name come from?
So Prometheus was the Greek god of fire, who was a titan, and he was somewhat semi-rebellious. He created the human race, and he wanted to give fire to the human race, and Zeus was not in favor of that. So he brought fire down and gave it to the humans, and for that he was punished over and over and over, having an eagle come and eat his liver every day, and then it would grow back.
Oh, wow.
But the Greek god of fire is Prometheus, and I tend to be one that likes to learn a lot of stuff from a lot of different areas, and then I give it out. I like to
Hmm.
disseminate good information. So, in some ways, I don't know. It's there's a I don't know. I just love to create connections, share information, bring people together, bring ideas together. I've got a big network of people with all kinds of backgrounds in those networks, and I like to be in the center as a hub. And I just connect people with people. It's been a. I've only run the company for a year and a half, and I love it. It's been a blast. I've made a lot of new friends, including yourself. And but I have 20 years in the business of website design and marketing. I was the marketing director for the company I worked for last before I left to start my own venture.
Nice. You said 20 years?
Yes.
Now, so and you and I talked about this when we met previously, but I think maybe even giving an attempt to do anything website related, it's a skill set that I know there's a reason why not everybody can do it, but in general, when you think about what a person is wanting to do with a website, what is it exactly that you offer to your customer?
All right. So, we bring websites to the market, but what I specifically and what the team of people I've surrounded myself with like to do is, like I was saying, we like to connect things. So, I want to be able to connect your website to or your web store to your CRM and your ERP. I
Okay.
want to be able to bring all these different connections. So, we're not just about making a website that's a digital business card or billboard on the internet. I mean, that's the purpose of many, many websites. And when people say websites, I think it's kind of comical. I see it on the forums a lot. It was like, hey, can you get an AI that'll build me a website? It's like every
Mm,
AI in the planet can build you a website. A
yeah.
website can be a web server with a single file that's a HTML file that says index, and then you
Right.
have a website. So the difference between a website that's just a single page and Amazon, which is a fortress or a gigantic multi-story skyscraper in terms of websites, right?
Hmm.
Is night and day. So you can
Yeah.
have a wagon, you can have a motorcycle, you can have a BMW, you can have an entire, a cruise liner. So the question is, what do you really want? And so I tend to build things that connect the dots between systems. So that's what Promethean Link does.
Nice. Well, and so as I mentioned, we met each other. We both took a kind of a seminar of sorts. It was a 3-day live seminar through Drone Command. I don't know if I specifically asked you about how you got to want to do drones. I'll just share briefly how I got interested in drones. My father and his brothers, or and his siblings, because I have an aunt, inherited some property, and I just became interested in wanting to look at it, but it's landlocked. So
Hmm.
in order to get to it, I would have to trespass through somebody's property, and I couldn't figure out who owned it. So I began looking into drone stuff. And you know how it is when you get to a website or those people and you start looking, they have ways of knowing that you were there. All of a
Oh yeah.
sudden, I started getting all this drone stuff. And I was interested enough. It seemed like you could get. Would you agree that it was pretty good value for what they were telling you that they could teach you about?
100%.
Yeah,
And I wanted to give a plug anyways, and I'm not getting paid for this. I just
me
thought the
either.
guys were really, really smart, really cool. Love the whole entire thing. And it's kind of the same way, like you just said. I was on Facebook when I saw this little ad pop up. Had
Mhm.
zero intention on signing up for a drone class. But and there's a little background to why I went forward with it. But honestly, it just took my attention, and I thought, you know what? I want to add photography because I all my websites have video or photographs, and I had just done a photo shoot with a GoPro, and I had to climb up on the side of an overpass to take the video, and it was dangerous, and I almost fell into the road. And I was like, if I had a drone, that would have been super simple, right? Just get the
Yeah,
drone up there, boom, you got it. Well, so as soon as that, it was like the night I was working on the site, and that ad pops up, and I was like, okay, cool.
yeah,
I had no idea that it was going to be like a month later. I literally thought I was going to sign up for a little video tutorial, and that was going to be it. And I thought I was paying $100 for a video tutorial, and I thought that was worth it.
yeah.
So instead, I mean, it was like later on in November, and I think this was somewhere in the middle of October when I signed up for it.
Mhm.
And I didn't know it was going to be 3 days either. That kind of at first it irritated me. It just so happened to be lucky on my part that I had the 3 days to do it, because normally my schedule is crazy and there was no way I was going to be able to do 3 days on a normal week. But it just happened to be. So I took the class, and the first day I was like, oh my God, they put so much juice into that class from the
Yeah,
first day.
yeah,
And it's like they set the hook. I was a fish on the line because they literally just gave so much good information. I was like, how could it get any better? What are they going to teach me that I don't know? And the second day was almost better than the first because the second day was marketing. Now, I will be honest, I recognize and knew a lot of what they taught, but they brought such a fresh perspective to it
yeah.
that I was like, this is brilliant. Now, and
And I happen to
unfortunately, yeah, go
I
ahead.
have sorry, I happen to have won the I don't know if you remember, but I won, I can't even remember what it was called, but it was like a deep dive into some marketing kind of stuff,
Yeah,
right? And I
right.
listened, in fact, this is the interesting part, is that I had been talking to my wife about the drones, just the drone business that I wanted to
Hmm.
create, kind of. And I started, I was here up here for 3 days, and she's like, what are you doing? We had to travel to Florida to visit her brother, and that's when I decided I was gonna have her listen to them, what we had available, that the
Nice.
one thing that I won. So she started hearing it, and then I began kind of putting my ideas about, drone hand solutions, and she was, "You gotta do this, and you could do that, and you could do that," and
Yeah,
she bought it,
yeah,
right? But
right.
still, now I still have a long ways to go, but I have, with support, we can do a lot, right? So,
Oh,
I mean, not only
absolutely.
from each other. What's up, Brandon mentioned Mitchell? There'll be some people popping in. I'll
That's
say hi to
awesome.
you guys, but
Bring them in.
keep in mind, guys, that I want to give my guests the due diligence that he's given me, and so I might not get you right when you guys pop in, but I will make sure that I do let you know that I appreciate you guys being in the chat with us. So, but yeah, so she was there with it, and now I've been working, including having meetings with you. Now let's get to the meeting that you and I had.
Yeah.
um you kind of broke out, show me some designs, and I think it's clear that your work is beautiful. um but what do we kind of come to the agreement in at the end of that meeting, which brings us here?
I mean, we talked that we were going to do this podcast. That was one of the outcomes. And, I could tell that right now wasn't the best time for us to work together just for a couple different reasons. But it was like, I like this guy. I want to keep hanging out. There's a good connection there. And then you threw out the invitation. I was like, oh, yeah, I'm on that. Let's do it.
Yeah,
I've always wanted to be on a podcast.
for sure.
So, I mean, no matter what happens in life, it's what you do with it, right? Everything's an opportunity if you think the right way.
I agree. I agree. So, and when we were discussing a couple things, we came across one thing in particular that I told you that I had seen, which was in the news, which is the fires in
Oh God.
California. Now, I don't know if you've ever had fire in your lifetime or had to deal with it, but when I was younger, I'm going to say I was about maybe 5 or 6 years old, maybe seven. I remember to this day being in at church at my mother's choir rehearsal, and kind of like when President Bush heard about the towers going down, and somebody
Hmm.
leaned in and whispered in his ear.
Mm.
Somebody did something very similar to that, and she had this look on her face, and then she grabbed us up, took us to our grandmother's house. And what I remember about everything else was the devastation, because my sister and I had um, these little porcelain boy and girl. We slept in the same room with their praying on their knees in pajamas,
Okay.
pink and
Hmm.
blue, right over our beds.
Yeah.
And for I don't know if you've ever seen or heard people talk about the stuff that they throw out to get the fuel out of the apartment or the
Oh
house
yeah.
or whatever.
Hmm.
That's what they
Right.
did to all of our stuff. And when we
Mm.
came got on the property, I was like, "Mom, why did they throw everything outside?" She's like, "That's what you got to do, whatever." So full circle to where we are now, and we have an incident where there is a drone that hit a plane. Now, have you've obviously heard of that about that, right? What were
Oh,
your thoughts when you heard
100%,
about it?
man. Well, my thought was, God almighty, drones have been in the news so much lately and not in a good positive light. And
Yeah.
it really kind of bothers me because I know of all the good that can be done with a drone. Okay, it's everything's a tool, right? A hammer. You can build a house, you can smash your thumb with it, bust
Mhm.
yourself in the head. Okay.
Sure.
It's the same thing with anything that's a tool. And drones are just a tool. Okay. And this guy that was putting a drone in the air during the middle of a freaking fire breakout was a tool himself, a different kind of tool. Okay. And I mean, my first thought, and this is probably not a nice thought, but I would like to beat the shit out of that guy. Sorry. I hope you,
Mhm.
you can handle that on your podcast, but
No, you're
that's what
good.
I would do.
Oh
I
my
mean,
gosh.
honestly,
No.
yeah, oh no, it's going to go bad. I'm sorry.
I was in
I
the
try
Air
not
Force,
to.
my mom was in the Navy.
Okay. All right. So yeah, that was my first thought was like, if I knew who that was, I would drive to his house and I would not just bust his nose. But besides that, I thought to myself, first of all, we got a problem. We got a problem with the anti-drone mindset, and it's because people in general don't trust each other in the world anymore. We live in an
Amen.
antitrust environment, and I remember when I was a kid in the '80s, you didn't lock your car door. You could go to
Mm.
the mall and you could leave your car unlocked. You could leave
Yep.
your door unlocked at night. Walk in
Yep.
and out of the house without having to worry about the keys. Now you got to have a camera to make sure somebody's not stealing your packages from Amazon on the front door. What happened?
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
I mean, come on.
so my sister and I were latchkey kids. Even in a foreign country, did we travel daily to get to the school that we went to? Not the school on base, but we traveled 30 minutes walking to the front gate, and about an hour ride on train and bus to get to school, and we did that there and back. Um, we never had to worry about getting snatched up, especially not in
Mm-mm.
Japan. Now, I don't know if the same
Oh
thing
yeah.
happened in America, but we did live in Washington D.C. and we had a similar trek that we did bus and train. Metro Rail was kind of cool, um, and and that was like 78, 9, 85, 86,
Hmm.
right around that area.
Sure.
Didn't have to worry about that stuff. But you bring a good point that the trustworthiness that we have with each other. I'll tell you one thing.
Right.
I was looking at somebody, and I don't know if you heard this story. It was a guy that what he did, you see, it was a short, and he goes and he says, "I must be the luckiest person." I might try to find it. "I must be the luckiest person in the world." And he kind of tells the story how he was traveling down the road, and he was putting gas. Well, he put gas in his car, and he put $10,000 on the edge of right above the tank. And then he takes his camera and he pans and he goes, "And it's still here after traveling for 4 hours." Now, in the very beginning, I'll admit, I did think, wow, that's a cool story. But then I kind
Sure.
of got skeptical. And I did the same thing with my wife. I showed her the video. And then
Hmm.
all of a sudden, I was like, well, what about this? Now, would you believe that the same guy had some other far fetched ass story about, well, I can't remember what it was. So it's like a guy who does this repeatedly. Now I'm gonna dig into it. There's no reason for me to think he might be lying, but there
Right.
is.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Well, no, I mean it's a shame because I'm gonna be really crazy transparent with you. I do a lot of nice things for a lot of people for no reason at all. Other than
Mhm.
like if I was them, I would really like that. That's really my motivation. It's I
Yeah.
was taught to be that way. My mom was the most benevolent, caring, giving person you've ever met. And like just the other day, and she's a friend of mine. I don't really throw any rocks at her or anything like that. It's not meant to discourage her or anything about her. But I wrote this app that lets you get a video conference call between you and the other person. And all I got to do is click on a button. They don't have to put in anything. I did end up adding an email so you could find out who's trying to get the conference with you. But that's all you got to do. She would not connect. She would not click the button. She's like, I don't know what's going to happen. I'm like, I'm literally telling you what's going to happen. I'm going to be on the other end and you're going to be on this end. She
Right.
wouldn't do it. And I thought,
Wow.
she knows me. We communicate all the time. She wouldn't do it. And I just thought, that's a real there's a problem in our society that we can't trust each other with simplest things. We really, and to be honest with you, just today I found 2 fraudulent transactions on one credit card and 4 on another. What is wrong with people? What
Really?
is happening? Yeah, because I hadn't looked at it in a while. My wife just brought it up because we had a nice Saturday to kind of relax and look at some stuff together. And she says, "Hey, do you have Geico?" I don't have Geico. Why is Geico on our transactions? 4 transactions, seven hundred
Wow.
dollars. Yeah. I mean, what is going on in the world where like every opportunity is going to happen? If you leave the door open, they're going to steal from you. What has happened in our brains, people? I don't know. But about the guy that put the drone in front of the plane, that was stupid. I mean, and he's ruining it for everybody else because really drones can be an amazing tool for people if they are used properly and wisely. And every single idiot that does that, it's like we could have nice things, but because of this guy and that other guy, Greg on Pilot Institute, I was watching his video. He says there are 40 violations already exceeding the drone incursion in restricted airspace in California
From this
during the
incident?
fires.
Oh my,
40.
or oh wow. Now and we know now. Okay, so I know you're going to be taking the test, right? Pretty soon.
Yes,
I mean,
yes. I'm
now I
dying
just kind of
to.
wanted to just out of curiosity, how prepared do you think you are? I'm not
I
going to test
am.
you.
No, no, it's fine. You can. I'm at 62% in the class. I'm taking the Pilot Institute class, which I think is fantastic. Okay.
Mhm.
But my problem is I juggle it between other things. So I got one website I'm working on. Okay, I got a couple hours. Let's do another section. Okay.
Yeah.
So it's taken me since mid-November when I bought the class to get through to 62%. Now, when I take the little test, I got a test on my phone I go through, I'm acing that. So
Okay.
I know the material, at least the questions in the pretest. That doesn't mean that it's going to apply to everything because I expect it to be somewhat different. But like airspace and thrust and the frictions and the drag and all the other stuff about that, I can take the test and feel pretty confident. But I
That's
haven't
good.
taken it yet. Yeah.
Well,
But
so
I know it's hard because it's really. I mean, I was blown away by how much. First of all, let me just say this: the FAA, if there's any group in America that has got their stuff together, it's the
mhm,
FAA. They have
yeah.
thought through everything.
Now when you so I took it twice. I failed it the first time. You
Wow.
want now check this out. I'm a believer in putting things out in the universe, but I shit you not. I was talking to my wife, and I said, "I am going to be pissed if I miss it by 1 point." Do you
You
wanna
put
know
it
what
out
happened?
there. You put it out there.
I failed. You gotta get a 70. I failed with a 69. And when I gave
I'm
the when
sorry,
so the
man.
you go to a testing center, the lady there was somebody in the room with us, and she had my score that she was giving it to me. The way that she came up to me, I knew that she was being discreet and that I had failed, and she was telling me that I came back. Now, when I went back and studied, I knew what was the problem. Part of the problem was this. I was familiar with the material, but there are certain things that you have to understand and know. And the reason why I bring this up is you can see in the background there's a sectional there, and it talks
Mm-hmm.
about airspace. The person
Right.
who flew in the space that he was flying either knew that he shouldn't be there, or he didn't know that he shouldn't be there, and he put himself in one of the first cardinal rules that they tell you is you kowtow to all the other aircraft around you. He should
Oh
not
yeah.
have been flying where he
Right.
was, and
Right.
it might have been a temporary restricted airspace, but
Mm-hmm.
had he probably done a little bit of due diligence, and there are other people out there that talk about the size of his crash. I'm gonna pull it up, but I want to
Okay.
hear your
Yeah.
thoughts about that. I'm gonna pull
No,
it
I
up and
got
see if
some
I
for
can get
sure.
an image that shows you the size of this thing. It wasn't that big, so I'll look at it while you
No,
go
it's.
ahead.
I think it's a mini 3 Pro is what they said.
I think you're right.
It's
I think you are
tiny.
right.
Yeah.
I'm gonna see if I can pull up the.
It made a 3 by 6 inch hole in that plane, and that thing weighs like nothing. It's like a coffee cup.
I'm gonna put this on the screen now. Let's see.
Yeah,
Oh,
that makes me so mad.
let's go back to.
Did you see that DJI
Can you
now
see
is
that?
removing the geo restrictions? Yeah, I can see it.
Oh wait, sorry. 1 second. Let me
Oh, you're good. It was up there.
put that there.
Yeah, now it's there for sure.
Okay. I was trying to get it so that we are on there too as well. There we go.
Oh, yeah, there you go.
There we go. All right.
Ta-da!
So what were you saying about the geo restrictions?
So DJI just removed geo restrictions, so you can actually accept that you're going to take full responsibility on the app and fly in an air in a class B or C airspace without it stopping you. Up to this point, the software stopped you. You couldn't get any closer, but now it's going to
Really?
let you go wherever. Yes, and
So
so they're not. Go ahead.
no, go ahead. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say that. So you got Lank that you can use to get approval, right? Lank's not going to
Mhm.
approve you, but you can still do it. That's dangerous, in my opinion.
I
Just
agree.
because the
Well,
stupid people are going to do stupid things.
and this is the thing. now, having gone through the process, and by the way, the drone command stuff that we went through, they have a section that tells you how you can go register for the test, what to expect, all that stuff. So I had already pre-registered my drone, and I had gone out and done a couple of different things just recreationally, and I was fine flying my drone. But I would be concerned if I was out flying and I lost my drone, particularly if there was a plane around. I would be concerned that it was gonna come back to me. This guy is likely in a bunch of trouble, or it could be a
For
girl, don't
sure.
get me wrong, right?
Right.
This
Right.
individual
No,
is
100%.
likely
And
in a world of trouble. Yep.
yeah, so he's going to be in trouble. And then there's this guy out in New York. Did you see about the Michael Leone Ellie or whatever his name is, retired fire chief? He faked
Uh-uh.
his 107 certificate. So now he's facing all kinds of what's that term when you fake stuff? Forgery or whatever it is. He's got to
Yep.
have yes, falsified information. People are stupid. Why? I don't understand. I mean, he's a retired fire chief. He should know better. This kid or whoever it is that put the drone in front of the plane, again, I don't know, man. I'm a big believer in freedom and personal responsibility, but freedom has to be matched with responsibility. There's
I
a
agree.
balance that must be maintained. You just can't have unlimited freedom. If you get it, you got to be responsible. And I'm not a big fan of putting more rules in place, but the rule that should be in place is I should go find that guy and show him a lesson so that he doesn't do that again. Because
Yeah.
it sickens me to my stomach to know that we've got great technology, great infrastructure. I mean, the FAA has done a brilliant job of thinking through every possibility, and yet some stupid is going to screw it up for everybody.
I agree. And you mentioned this one of the first things that you said was what was it that I was going to ask you about?
You talking
It
about
eluded
Probotech,
it, no.
the
Oh, yes.
Pyrocent?
Yes.
Oh,
So now this is prior to anybody probably trying to get in and capture images or whatever. But you
right.
mentioned pyrosense. Is that what you said?
Pyrosense, yes, sir.
Now
So
I think that just when you were talking about it is a fairly cool thing. So I want you to kind of tell what it is that you discovered about this pyrosense.
I'm going to try to explain it in the most layman words possible. So I'm not going to overly complicate it because it's got some sophistication to
Explain
it.
it to me like I'm a child.
Yeah, like what they say, a fourth grader or something.
Like a fourth
When you
grade,
drop,
yeah.
yeah. So I'll give you a little bit of background just so you know the context because it's kind of crazy that it would end up in my hands like this. But so I do a little bit of programming and I go online and I'm in forums, right? So I met this guy named George and I had no idea who George was. All I knew was that he's a great programmer and he shares some really fascinating code. Like, this guy is a genius. There's no doubt in my mind that he's one of the smartest programmers I've ever run across his work. He built his own operating system, and it's beautiful. It's not even just an operating system, it's a beautiful operating system. So I'm complimenting the guy, and he's talking about stuff, and he mentioned something about drones. And I was like, oh, I like drones. I'm going to get into drones. I'm interested in drones. And he says that he's got this software for controlling drones. And I said, well, hey, man, I got a company. If you want to sell your drone software over here in the US, let me know. Oh, my God. He jumped all over that. Like, he came jumping. And so he says, look, I've got the software. It's called PyroSense. It's designed to be preventative of forest fires, because we got a lot of forest fires over here in Greece. And he sends me this video. The video blew my mind, because basically what you got is, you got smoke detectors in your house, right? Everywhere to prevent your house fire. Well, what they do is they put these smoke detectors basically in the forest, and there's sensors that are receiving CO2, temperature changes, particles, that kind of stuff. And it's sending this little tiny signal using a Sigfox transmitter, which is really low voltage, low amperage, micro signal. And that's communicating constantly temperature, CO2 levels, particles, whatever. When it senses an anomaly in the atmosphere in that area, it automatically deploys an alert signal that sends a text, an email, and a phone call to the emergency services. It says, hey, we got an anomaly. Come check it out. So what do? You get in your car and you go out there? Maybe not. You can't be there very quickly in a car. But what you do is you do send a drone. Now, this drone flies away from Command Central. It's got AI programmed into the visual. So it's got a camera. It's got a thermal camera. It's got a regular camera. It's looking for light. It's looking for smoke. It's looking for something that's fire. It triangulates on that source of fire, and it reports, hey, confirmed sensor says right here, this is a fire. We got a fire. So what do? You send a fire truck out there? Well, maybe if the road's not obstructed, if it's obstructed, you're going to have to come up with another method. But if it's not, you send a fire truck out there, they put the fire out, right? The rule is in forest fires, if you can put the forest fire out in 15 minutes, you've prevented a big problem. Because 15 minutes is enough time. Under that 15 minutes, you probably got a manageable fire. Past 15 minutes, forget it. You've got a blaze that you're not going to be able to contain. Okay.
How fast does it travel? How fast does fire travel in general? Do you know?
That's a wonderful question. And I'm sure if it's got Santa Ana winds, it's traveling really fast. So I
mean,
would imagine that it depends upon.
If you're saying 15 minutes, right?
Right.
I mean, how fast can you travel in 15? We could probably figure it out, but 15 minutes.
We could
It's
do the
too.
math.
Okay. Yeah, that's right. You're a science teacher.
We
Or
could
you
do it.
were a science
Yeah,
teacher.
that's funny. I was a
We could
science
figure
teacher
it
for
out, right?
years. Loved it. We
You
could.
know what they say? Like, how often do you ever have to use your math and whatever, blah, blah, blah. There's been
Oh
plenty
yeah.
of times when I think about a
Oh,
problem
all the
and I
time.
sit down with my pen and I figure it out. Sorry, I
Yeah,
didn't mean to
and
interrupt, but
no, good. I love derailing. It's awesome. It's fantastic. So the point being that, yeah, if you can get to that fire within 15 minutes, you can prevent a catastrophe. So the thing is this: it uses AI. It identifies the source of fire, and if you can't get to that fire, it deploys a secondary drone. It's this big old gigantic drone. It's a lot bigger than the small one it does for the reconnaissance, and that one brings a payload that has like not a golf ball. It's about a soccer ball size deployment. And that thing explodes, putting white powder all over the fire. It's basically the same stuff that's in fire extinguishers. Puts the fire out. So you got a primary identifier, and then you got a secondary that's going to go put it out. So that's really a very simple system. There's plenty of videos, and there's case studies and proof of this situation working online. Even the Discovery Channel UK has done a big, beautiful, like a 25-minute, expose on using this system. It's well known across the globe, but it's just not known in the United States. And I have had a very challenging time getting that information in front of people that care.
that's
It's
crazy.
been everything.
Well, I was just gonna say, as crazy as it is, and as destructive as fire is to forestry and all that stuff, isn't it actually a necessary process? Like,
Oh,
in
absolutely.
order for certain things to
Yeah,
happen naturally,
100%. I'm
fire
a
needs to actually.
biologist.
Okay, so
Yeah.
it serves a purpose, but I guess uncontrolled, right? Like, I mean, lightning is as random as it is causes
Hmm.
fires, but maybe it's different when a person or people get involved and they do things that cause fires. Is that what it is?
I would agree with that. So, okay, from the biological perspective, you got to have a certain temperature to open up certain pine cones that will then release their seeds so that they can actually reproduce and create new trees. Okay.
Wow.
And that's not the only example of a life form that needs that. Okay.
Sure.
When you burn all that detritus and it goes back into the soil, it puts all kinds of phosphorus and magnesium and all kinds of things that are necessary for life. Is it destructive? Absolutely. Why do humans? I mean, the best case scenario is that we go in there and we work with nature and we go do controlled burns under control. I mean, people
Sure.
have been doing that. That's what we do. That's
Sure.
what humans are doing. We work with the land, we figure out what works, and we take care of it. But in California, I'm not even going to get into politics because I'm not.
Yeah.
I really feel like you can really pollute anything with politics. Okay, because here's the thing: politics, the left and the right, they should be working together. They should
I
stand
agree.
on their positions and they should negotiate and they should stop trying to win. I'm so sick and tired of this gotta win society. All I do is win, 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 no matter what. Well, guess what?
Yeah.
Sometimes you gotta lose and compromise, dumbass. Sometimes
Yeah.
you gotta play the part. And a good engine does like this, okay? It goes back and forth, and that's what generates torque, and that's what moves the car forward. But we're not trying to move forward, we're trying to get stuck. I want to win. I want to win. And we're
Yeah.
losing. We're all losing because we're all trying to win. Stop trying to win. Start trying to compromise. Get to the middle. Understand it's a process. It's a system. Don't think that you got to be right all the time. Anyways, don't get me started. It gets me
Ah.
fired up.
It's not, and you know what? I'm one of those people, and people may seem that or think that this is a weak stance, but I believe this, and I believe it truly, that whether you are right, left, and I say this in some of the things that I've done and said, whatever extreme you lie in, if you're going to come to any agreement with anyone, it's in the middle where it is that you can find resolution, right? Because
100%. Yep.
if you continuously keep going in the opposite direction, then you're never going to find a place where you agree.
Yep.
So your point that you made, and you said it probably way better than I just did, is that you
No, that's
have to
good.
you have to find a place where you understand it and compromise.
Let
Otherwise,
me
you'll just
let
be
me give
fighting
you
all
a
the time.
I got an idea that I wish to share with the world. And it's such a simple concept. Okay.
Okay.
I was in the industrial pump industry for the last 20 years as the marketing director. And there's a simple idea called best efficiency point. Okay.
Okay.
Best efficiency point. It's a physics term, it's an engineering term. And a centrifugal pump, when it turns that little the impeller inside of the pump, it generates flow and pressure. Okay.
Okay.
And there's a system which has all kinds of friction in it, all the pipe diameters and all the different things on the coatings on the inside of the pipe that creates friction. So that's your system. And between the pump pushing against that pipe, it creates pressure. And that pressure can change depending upon the signature, what's called the best efficiency point of that system. Okay. We
Okay.
don't think like that. We think we gotta win. I gotta be the best. I gotta be the top. The system's gonna push against you. That system's gotta be there because you know what happens when you run a pump wide open with no restriction? It's called run out. It draws all the horsepower out of the engine and it overamps the motor and it shuts the whole thing down. You got to have some back pressure. You can't constantly just be wide open. So there's a best efficiency point. And we could use that same idea in society. We could use that same idea in education. We could use that same idea in politics. We need to think in terms of the best efficiency point, which is not one guy winning or one team winning or whatever. It's a system that works together. Why have we missed that very simple concept? Because we all have an ego, and that ego says, I got to win.
Mm.
But you know what? I'm an old school person. My mom taught me different. It wasn't about always winning. It was about making things better for everybody. And
Hey,
sometimes you gotta
do you
you
think
gotta compromise.
I agree? And do you think that the mentality of always winning keeps us from collaborating, for example, with other countries?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, so the best efficiency point between capitalism and socialism is what America ought to be. Okay.
Mm.
We should be in the middle. We should have public roads, public libraries, public utilities, and personal privacy and personal property. And I don't see how in the world we don't see the obviousness of that. Okay. We
Well,
should
now some people will say, now, just to play devil's advocate for a second, some
go
people
for
will
it.
say
Of course.
that we weaken ourselves by welcoming any of that.
Okay.
Now, I'm
Let
not
me
gonna say I agree or disagree. I'm just throwing it out
no,
there
no,
because I've heard it.
no. I love to debate both sides. I could go on both sides. So let's do that. Let's take that for a couple of spins.
Sure.
Okay. Does it weaken yourself? Okay, let's put it into sports because everybody freaking loves sports. Everybody wants to know about sports. Okay. What happens when you lose? Do you just go destroy the other team? Do you give up? You go home? You quit? No, you take it as a lesson. Okay. If you don't win, you learn. That's the way you do everything in life. If you don't succeed when you try, it's the most data rich environment you can be to learn what to do next time. If you don't give up, so to
Yeah.
me, I think that middle ground is not a weak spot. The dumbass thinks he's got to win. You know, the worst position you can be in is to have just got a success because you don't question yourself. You think that that success means that you are absolutely right and that you deserve to win. And guess what happens? You're not paying attention anymore. You turned your brain off.
Yeah, proof of
That's the way it is.
failure allows you to prove a concept to success, right? So,
Yes.
I mean, without
Yeah.
failure on so many levels, you are just, I agree. I hear exactly what you're saying. You are allowed I mean, if we always succeeded in our first endeavor every single time,
Mm. It's the
I
worst thing
mean,
for you. You don't
yeah,
learn
without
nothing. You think you're
yeah,
good.
without strife. Exactly. I mean, just imagine our forefathers having not struggled on some level to conceptualize freedom, right? We all can feel what freedom is, right? We know
Right.
if we're free or not,
Right. Right.
and if it's only affecting you and you're
Hmm.
free, then everybody else be damned. But then all of a sudden, it matters that this person feels a certain way, and what do they?
Right.
What you know what I'm saying? So
Hmm.
all of those things, we're far ways away from a damn drone. No, but but
Yeah, I know. Scope creep happens to me every
right.
day, man. It's the hardest thing in
That's
the world to stay
funny.
on track. That's why I told
That's
you I love
funny.
it when we go off track. It's good.
That's funny. That's funny. No, and from the very beginning of what we started to where we are now, it has
Hmm.
been obviously a pleasure to speak with you. You're clearly a bright guy.
Likewise.
You're
Oh,
clearly
thank
a
you. You
bright
are
guy.
too, for sure.
Thanks, man.
Yeah, man. Are we done? I don't want to be done. I love this. This
No,
has
no.
got to
I
be
mean, we got a
okay.
few minutes, I'm sure.
Yeah, man.
Let's. Did you see anything in the chat that caught your eye? If you did,
I don't see the
point it
chat.
out.
Show me how to do that. I would love to see the chat.
Oh, you know what? What you can do
Oh my
is
God, there's all
so what
kinds of
I
stuff over here.
there are people in there. So it's kind of hard. That's why I kind of like step aside for a second and kind of look at see if I see anything with the chat. But I normally
Yeah,
I would put things up. So let me go through and see. First of all,
yeah.
thanks British for showing up. Brandon Mitchell, thanks for showing up. Trump said, thanks for showing up. Obviously, my guest Walter. And I don't know if you guys saw this or you can see or not, but let me put both of us here. But I named
Yeah,
the
man.
show Breaking Bad Discussion Drones and Websites because obviously Walter, he's a website guy. We both are kind of dabbling in drones. But I have this shirt. I'm just going to stand up a little bit. It has that guy right there. Now, if that
Heisenberg.
is not a spitting image of you, I don't know what is. And it's Mr. Walter White to boot.
Yeah, I get that a lot. I get it at the gym, and I was a science teacher for years, and I could build all kinds of chemicals. So it's a little bit fitting, but I don't. I have never tried making meth or anything like that. So I have made chemicals, but I have never made anything that was an intoxicant. But
So let me.
back in
What do
organic,
you
yeah,
what do you think about now? There was another story that I had. And I just to briefly kind of touch on what it was about, uh,
yeah.
that the Pentagon blacklisted Chinese drones maker
Mm.
Autel Robotics. Do you know who that is?
Oh, of course,
Have you?
the orange ones. I want one just because my company colors are orange. So I just wanted to have one just because it
Okay.
matched. I got one on my website because it looks so good. The problem
Okay.
there is one Autel drone that is manufactured in the U.S. The parts come from China, but it is manufactured in the U.S. Just one model. That's the one thing about Autel is kind of weird. If you go through the reviews, some of them are amazing and have like all kinds of rave reviews, and the other one's a dud. So I don't, it's not a very consistent brand at
Mm,
this point. I honestly don't understand what we have so bad against China. I mean, that's going to make me sound very weird. And I'm not like a communist
mm.
sympathizer. That's not where I'm getting at. I love capitalism. I love freedom. I don't want somebody to tell me what to do. But if you look at the technology that's coming out of China, they're clearly smart. And I think as an intelligent person, you can actually learn stuff from your enemy if you pay attention, if you think they're your enemy. And I don't personally think that China has to be our enemy. Obviously, they're part of the planet Earth, and I'm part of the planet Earth. And if you go to the moon and you look at the planet Earth, we're all one. The only reason we separate ourselves is because we play these word games like, oh, that's China. They do things different. They're a whole bunch of different people. That's a mind game. That's an imagination. It's like boundaries and all that stuff is made up. We've agreed to that, but it's made up. Just like your own personal name. Somebody gave you that. That wasn't something that came out of your genetics. This is imagine. Most of our world is imaginal. Okay, we create concepts and we stamp a name to it, and that gets stuck in our heads, and we're too simple-minded to think beyond that.
Well,
Birds and oxen,
let's just for a second try to pinpoint if there was a thing or concept that you and I would say is definitely dangerous for America when it comes to China. Is there that something that or do you think that there is that something? I mean, that's kind of a broad ass question. That might be a broad question.
But I'm gonna think in terms of physics. Okay, here's where China is a threat to America. Ready? It's not where we think. Okay, China's economy allows them to sell us goods at a price that we can't compete with.
That's a good point.
It's not because China has some philosophical difference in the way they view the world. Okay. It's what I call a potential gradient. Okay. When you put high charge over here and a low charge over there and you put a wire to them, bam, you got a connection. Okay. That's what we got with China. We got really cheap labor, really cheap goods, and you got a bunch of people over here that got a lot of money and want to spend it. That's where we have a problem. So if you think about electricity and you think about heat and you think about transfer, okay, what you do is you regulate those things with a valve. You put a little valve in between the two, okay? That's what tariffs are. That's what taxes are. That's what all these things are. So but see, the general population doesn't think like that. They think I got to win. Those are the bad guys. I'm the good guy. It's always me. I'm always the good guy. We can never be the bad guy. Even when we go blow up people, we're still the good guy because we did it for good reasons, you know. We got to convince ourselves of that.
Let me make this suggestion. And I'm going to say it in the only way that I can think of it. All of the things that we think about China and capitalism and all those kind of things, people wanting the cheapest way to make something and provide a service. What needs to be regulated, winning is fine. But when you get to the point of greed, then it becomes problematic, right? Because people then want to go, they want to cut corners. They want to not have the quality product, whatever, et cetera, et cetera. If all of those standards remain the same and you find a product that you've made that is cheaper, I'm all for that. But you get people who get damn greedy.
Of course. Well, you know, and the problem is that, again, I go back to that best efficiency point, okay? We're never looking for a model that works. We're always looking for as a yes or no. And the world, to be honest with you, is not so polarized. Very little things in the world are absolutely 100% this or 100% that, okay? And we got to stop thinking in all or nothing propositions. It's not a binary universe. It's a very gray universe that changes and oscillates. And over time, if you think about it, things obviously are not always one way or another. I mean, even looking at the Constitution of the United States of America, we don't interpret our laws the same way they did 100 years ago or 200 years ago.
Sure. Because there's so many more newer things, newer concepts. Technology is different, access to information, but that's why the Constitution breathes, right? It breathes
it's
because
a living document, right?
Now it's a living, and I completely agree with that. And we face scenarios like us having drones. I mean, I have flown a drone myself. In fact, I had never done one until I bought one. But I'm very cognizant of the types of things, even having done, First Amendment audit type things, where I can see somebody be concerned about you flying over my property, et cetera.
Oh, 100%. Sure.
And the impetus for my desire to do business with a drone doesn't have anything to do with looking at somebody through a window. You know what I'm saying? That's where we.
There ain't nothing to see, man.
Exactly. That's where we pure. That's where our ideas are pure, when we know that the intent that we have in mind is also pure, right? When it gets a little
I
bit
could go with
muddy,
that.
yeah. I
Yeah.
mean,
No,
I
100%.
sure, sure, sure.
Well,
Um,
I was gonna say that you're right. I mean, I do believe intent is very necessary, but a problem with intent is that you can easily do things that you think. Let me give you a perfect example of good intent gone wrong. Okay,
okay,
you like cereal? Do
I do.
you
Yes,
like Frosted Flakes and all that stuff?
frosted
And I'm not
flakes,
trying
grape
to.
nuts,
Yeah, right. Okay,
the stuff that
I don't even
needs that,
remember.
that you add sugar to.
Yeah, right, right. Okay, Kellogg's, the guy that started the Kellogg's Corporation. Do you know anything about him?
No, I don't.
This is fact. You can look it up on your own time whenever you feel like this is interesting, if you find it interesting. Okay. He was a very well-intentioned religious man. And he
Mm,
thought he was going to help the male population in the United States to stop masturbating because he thought that that was a violation against God and against the Bible. So he put a lot of, and this is not made up. This is proof that you can go read it. Okay, he wanted to eliminate red meat from the diet to reduce the amount of testosterone in males. Okay, and that's
okay.
why he started that whole entire company to make vegetable-based foods, including the cereals. Okay, this was from his good intentions. That's the only problem I have with good intentions is that when you have good intentions, you always forget that you're not all knowing. You will
Mm,
always put yourself in a position of power because, hey, I got good intentions. I'm going to, you know what? I like to be put back in my place. I like it when somebody can throw it in my face and say, no, you were wrong. I don't like it right then, but I like what comes later, which is a big old bunch of new information in my head that I realize, why did I think that? And then I learn
mm,
from it. That's
mm.
the
Well,
problem with always thinking that your good intentions are. I have millions of good intentions that I have ended up doing stupid things based on.
yeah, I
That's
got.
the one
You
thing
know
I
what?
can.
That's a very good point, and I'm gonna have to revisit what I really mean when I say that. And your point is well
Mhm,
taken. I mean, you can defile a project or a process with good intentions gone wrong, right?
mhm.
Is basically what you're saying. No, I get you. I get you for sure.
I got a
Now,
perfect example.
go
I mean,
ahead.
I'll give you a quick one. I know I can talk too long. When I was back in 2005, the first time I built a web store, okay, my
Okay.
web store went crazy. I was like, this was back when eBay was brand new. I was neck to neck with eBay on the internet with the pumpbox.com. I was going to sell industrial chemical pumps online. My boss says, ain't nobody going to spend money online like that. Those are expensive. Nobody's going to do it. Okay. Just let me do it. Let me try. So I started my own first LLC and I put the pump box online. And guess what happened? People were buying pumps from me online. I made $50,000 in 3 months
Wow.
online selling pumps. Okay, great. Proof of concept, no problem. Guess who that bothered the most? The sales team. Because I was setting
Oh,
their my good intentions to help sell more pumps on for the company. People were finding my prices that were 10% lower than everybody else's. And the sales guys were saying, I just lost an order. You cut me out. They're going to you now. Good
wow.
intentions gone wrong. I didn't think through that.
Now, so wait, so then once they have gone wrong, like I'm sure you probably thought like, well, then we're not trying to lose business for you. So how about we come up with another solution that that helps? I mean, did you have something, or they were like, no, just stop doing
Oh,
it?
no, the solution was they were going to fire me. Okay. So that was the solution. I was getting fired. I found years later that I was going to be fired. But what I did was I sold my company to the company I was working for. And I kept my mouth shut for 6 months and I worked my butt off as best I could to do the better job that I could. I mean, it's like my work went from like B to like A plus and better. I literally was like, Mr. Not going to make a mistake on anything because I didn't want to get fired. I had just had a baby and I needed money and there was no way in hell I was going to give up my future over this. Okay. I
Yeah.
was just like, my timing is too early. So what did I do? I just worked my butt off. Now they did send a company wide email saying we're looking for this kind of person to do this other job. I threw my resume out and they came back and said, well, we don't really want you for that job.
Mm, mm,
But
mm, mm.
if you're interested in marketing, we'll move you up to to Greensboro where you can work and you can be our marketing director. So for the remaining 14 years, I was the marketing director for that company.
Wow,
And
that's
I
cool.
ended up running websites. And yeah, it was a, it's like I said earlier, it's not what happens to you, it's what you do with what happens to you. 90% of your life isn't what happened. 10% is what happens. 90% is how you choose to respond to that. You
Right,
don't,
right,
you can
right.
always take a negative and turn it positive if you have the right mindset.
That's crazy. Well, so I was going to ask you one last thing, which was
Mm-hmm.
oh, did you tell me what grade it was that you taught science?
Oh, so I interned in marine biology for high school students, and then I taught sixth, seventh, and eighth grade middle school science, which had everything. I mean, we
Yeah,
covered geology, we covered weather, we covered some biology, we covered some electricity. I mean, it was crazy. And
yeah.
I was that kind of guy. I had every Thursday, I would bring in stuff. I'd go Wednesday night and buy stuff, and we had a lab every Thursday. And I had a system for payment. I called them Heber bucks. So my students would get money, fake money that I had my little face on, and I would pay them to do jobs in the class. And then
Mm.
right before the report cards would come out every 9 weeks, I'd have an auction, and they would and I'd go to the Goodwill and I would buy all kinds of stuff like bicycles and skateboards, and
Oh yeah.
I even used one of my old electric guitars because I used to play a lot of electric guitar, and I brought one. And the kids this thing took off in the whole school, even outside of my classroom. They were buying each other's stuff, like, hey, I forgot paper, can I buy some? And they were using it throughout the school, and it was a really cool system. And no, I love the classroom. I would go back, but it doesn't pay anything.
Yeah, you know
Unfortunately,
what?
that's another thing, man. The school is the worst place to go get a career. What is that?
Yeah,
What did that tell
I
you about our country?
I mean it is, and to your point, there are two teachers that stick out in my mind of having influenced me significantly. One of them was
Mhm.
I forget what it was called though. It was like government. It was my senior
Okay.
year. You know, like
Hmm.
it wasn't called economics. I forget what they called it. Civics maybe. But
Maybe, yeah.
that guy, and I don't, and I it doesn't matter that I remember his name because it's been very many years. There's the teacher that I'm talking about before, the science teacher, Mrs. Coonsey. I remember her name, but for some reason I can't remember that one guy. But he made me think about our government in a way that inspired me going,
Right.
going to the Air Force,
Right.
graduating and moving forward to the point where something happened with my mom. You've seen a little bit of my channel where I thought that I wanted to make a record of it and I wanted to record, and they said you can't record in this building, and I was like, I'm gonna make a video about it. So
Right. There you go.
but
Right.
teachers are a necessary uh entity
Oh, they're
in
critical.
our, yeah, they're very, but we don't pay them enough. You're right.
No, it's because they don't generate a profit. Okay.
Mm,
If you study economics, and I don't mean like book economics, if you just kind of contemplate the way the world works, okay, you have pockets of money. And in order to get into those pockets of money, you have to be able to offer them something that they can't do for themselves.
mm.
And education is a de facto. It is given. It is granted. So what do you do with things that are granted? You take them for granted.
Take
Okay,
it
it's
for
like
granted.
oxygen. Ain't nobody going to pay for it. No matter how important it is, nobody's going to pay you $1 for oxygen. Now, if it's like, here's the thing: if you're in the desert and you're about to die from dehydration, what's more important, a gold ring with a big fat diamond on it, or a gallon
Water.
of water? Okay, water
Water.
is more important. Context, it matters. The context of the situation matters. Okay, and the problem is the context we've created in our country is that teachers are for granted, and we treat
Mm.
them that way. We don't treat education as something that's valuable. Why? I don't know why. Honestly, I don't really know why. But I know it has everything to do with economics. And it has to do with the fact that they don't generate a profit. If teachers brought a profit, if you could go back and trace it and say, oh, this person actually brought in $150,000 worth of educational sales, whatever that means, they would pay
Mhm.
them more. Okay. But that's the part of the situation that you can't really quantify, because you can have a teacher. My wife's a teacher and I was a teacher. Okay.
Mhm.
You can have a classroom with 30 students or 15 or however many you got, and you can have the best teacher in the world and still have a crappy class. And I don't mean to talk about students as being crappy, but you can have a combination of recipe of people that do not work well together. You can have one student that is a gigantic distraction. You got another one that can't speak anything that you can understand. You got another one that's got and that teacher could be a grade A, wonderful, deserve the highest pay because of the effort, the amount of extra time she puts into it or he puts into it, all the other reasons, and you're not going to give them the money because the kids in general get a C as an average. And you might have another class that's a piece of cake. I had one that was an A class. I mean, all my classes I ever taught were like the advanced science students. They were always amazing. They were the best. And I mean, was I that good? I was entertaining. I don't know if I was any better than any of the other teachers. I know I was entertaining. Maybe that was good.
Well, so you said, now I just want to clarify something. You said they don't make a profit. So I'm thinking in my mind, just on the surface, colleges and private schools. So those
Sure.
teachers paid well enough, or does that model break
Well, oh, yeah, they
or
do.
stand? Okay, so then basically we're talking
Yeah.
public schools, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
In the public
Sure.
sector, public
But
schools, they don't bring a profit, so to speak. I
yeah, but I
take it.
mean, Harvard's going to be a lot more expensive than NC State.
Sure,
Okay.
absolutely.
And it's going to be proportionally rewarded to those teachers that are bringing in the students. I mean, there's tenure and there's a lot of other parts of that game, but it's a fundamental, if you do this, then that happens. The if then statement is if you generate a profit, you will then get more money. That's the
Yeah.
game. That's America in a nutshell. Now, every time you put it into the public sector, public sector, all the rules are off. I mean, try to call the IRS and get somebody on the phone, because I had to this year. It took me 3 weeks to finally get somebody, and they finally gave me the number I needed to give to the next person. When they transferred the call, I was lost. I had to end up going to pay a lot of money to a CPA just to get in touch with the IRS because they wouldn't let you do it. Every time I've ever had to deal with the government in any capacity whatsoever, it was subpar and it was not good.
Shame. And
Shame,
somebody,
yes.
Trump said, is asking, "What's this dude's channel?" So you mentioned that you don't have a YouTube channel.
I
We're
don't
gonna
have
have
a
to we're gonna,
channel,
we're gonna have to
man.
find a way to make that change, right?
It's
So
you. It's your channel. I'm on your channel. That's my channel.
well, I feel like, and everybody will let us know that that this interaction has gone well enough that I would love to do it again sometime. We'll certainly
Me
talk about
too.
it.
Cool.
However it pans out to be, we'll do it. But we'll get it so that you have something where you have on your channel. We'll make that happen. So Trump said
Awesome, man. This give me
it's
something
coming
good.
soon. It's coming
Is that the
soon.
Donald that actually said that? I would. That would be phenomenal. No, I know it's not the
That
Donald. Come
you
on.
got an endorsement from the man himself. Wait, today's the 18th,
Woo.
so Monday, is it going to be Monday that the inauguration is going to happen? Oh wow.
Yeah. Indoors because it's too cold outside. It's the second time it's been done. I think Ronald Reagan had that happen too. Ronald Reagan. God, bring him back from the grave. Somebody, come on.
So your kung fu, according to Trump, said is strong. He's cool. The debate is strong. They love you in the chat, man. So we have to definitely bring you back. I mean,
I
and
love
that's
them in
what
the chat too.
that is one thing I think is cool, is when you have a vibe like it seems that we do. I
We
mean,
do
and
for
this
sure.
happened before we got on camera, which is why
Yeah.
we are here now. And we kind of said that we were just going to wing it and have some fun with it, and it has been fun. I really appreciate you giving your time. I know you probably had your wife. Is she standing somewhere going, okay, you said an hour?
Nah, I can smell something good in the house, and my daughter was baking cookies. So when she comes, I don't eat any sweets. I try to avoid them because I know it's poison to your soul, but it's
Sure.
delicious, right?
Well,
So
well
she's made a big old thing of cookies, and I'm
I
gonna have
am.
some, to be honest with
I
you.
just recently. So my doctor has told me that I am pre-diabetic, and of course
Mm,
that means if you do certain things, then you don't have to go
mm,
down this road. You may eventually get there, but you probably want to start changing the way you ate. I used to eat Oreo cookies and milk every
mm,
night in the middle of the night. I used to eat lots of pasta, lots of bread. I ate
all
ramen.
the
I lived
bad
in Japan.
stuff.
I love ramen. I do my little special
It is
thing with it,
good.
but I have to stop doing that because my body's not liking it. So
Well,
uh,
I mean,
I
I'm
want to
51
be able to
now.
have more shows with you.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, man, I'm telling you. Yeah, at 51, I cannot eat what I used to eat, and I don't drink at all anymore. I can't even have 2 beers. If I have 2 beers, I'm like dead for 3 days. It's like my brain just doesn't wake up. It's just tiring. So I just avoid it. I don't need it. It's all good. I spent those days. Those are done. I had a lot of fun,
yeah,
but that's
I
sometimes you
had
just got to grow up.
I probably had enough of all of that for many people, and I am in that category too where I don't drink. So I'm gonna do one more thing, which I like to ask people that I speak with that I haven't spoke with ever before.
Yeah.
And you and I are
Mhm.
about the same age. I think you said you were 51. I just turned
51.
54.
Yeah.
So I'm going to
Nice.
ask you. I'm going to ask you if you can tell me an a incident, a world event that
Mhm.
sticks in your mind as you having gone through, and what were your thoughts about it, and then we'll close.
Sure. I remember 9/11 and Tim McVeigh when he blew up that
Oh
building, and
yeah,
what else? And the Space Shuttle Challenger explosion. I was in like the seventh grade. I can remember that too.
yeah.
Which one
Well,
you want? Which one you
that's
want?
any one of those, and that's fine. And then the reason why I ask is because I also remember the Challenger, and I was in Japan at the time. And I
Oh
remember
my.
when we were standing at the bus, somebody said the Challenger blew up, and I was like, we were like,
Right.
what? But when we got to school,
Yeah.
um, there was televisions all in every hallway, and that's
Mhm.
all we did. And the other thing
Wow.
was, I was in Washington D.C. the day that President Reagan got shot, and I lived right down the street from where John Hinckley
Wow.
Jr.
Yeah, I remember
was
him. Yeah.
yeah. So that's cool. Yeah.
So yeah, but so the Space Shuttle Challenger happened in Florida, right? And I was in
Mhm.
Winter Haven, Florida, as a student. I saw it in the sky, and
Oh
all of
wow.
us we didn't know what was going on. We looked, and it looked like a two-headed dragon.
Yep.
So it went up like a single stick, and then it had like a bust, and then it went into two different directions. Those were the two, the solid rocket boosters, right?
Hmm.
And it looked like a two-headed, like a dragon with two different arms coming out of it. And
Wow.
we didn't know what it was. We were, that was back when we were afraid Russia was going to start nuclear war. So all
Oh
the
yeah.
kids were saying, "Hey, nuclear wars broke out." We forgot that Krista McCullough was going into space because she was a
Hmm.
teacher. Remember that?
Yep. Yep.
And so
Absolutely.
when we went in, it was lunchtime, and I remember what they had. They had fried chicken, and it was delicious. I used to love the fried chicken at our school, and
Mhm.
I
So
was I
so
was looking.
so did I.
Yeah,
Mm.
exactly. Right, right. So we were going through in the line, and it was on the TVs. They had big old CRT TVs by then with nice little flat panels. And
Mhm.
I remember looking up, and it was like the space shuttle has just blown up, and you had all kinds of news reporters. And oh my God, the whole school was just like in shock. And I
Mhm.
was in seventh grade, I believe it was. Yeah, it was
Yep.
Denison.
I feel
No,
like
it
it was
wasn't Denison.
86.
I think
Maybe
you're
it was
right. Yeah, it
85.
wasn't
Maybe it
Denison
might have been.
though.
We were
I
there
think it
from
was
like
Jewett. It was Jewett.
82 to 86, like 4 years. So
Hmm.
I don't feel like it was 82. Is it maybe
Oh,
84? Let me look it up real quick.
yeah, look it up. But I will tell you, did you see what happened with Elon Musk's rocket?
Uh-uh.
He just
Just
launched
recently?
one that broke into, yeah, just like yesterday. And it
Oh.
broke into a million pieces up in the sky. And a lot of people were saying some really negative things about Elon Musk. And I'm thinking to myself, what is it wrong with our culture? I mean, whether you like the guy or not, it's like, do you like laugh at when your neighbor's car blows up? Is that cool? Why do you do that? How's that positive for you, anyways? The
Yeah,
negative that you throw out is coming right back into you. What you do comes back. We're all each other. You know that.
for sure.
It's crazy to do
Absolutely.
that. So the negativity you throw out is the negative. It's the same negativity in your own life.
Amen.
And what do
It
you,
was
you just
January 28th, 1986. So I was
86.
close.
Okay.
I left
Yeah.
Japan that year. Yeah. So yeah. All right. Well,
Man, I would
so
love to go to Japan. Yeah, it's been a blast, man. I really appreciate this. This has been a lot of fun.
absolutely. I'm going to thank you. I'm going to thank everybody who stopped by. If you haven't already, please like, share, and if you haven't done so, consider subscribing. I think that we'll probably do this again. We'll go behind the scene and we'll see if we can figure out something that we can get together. But I really
Yeah,
enjoyed
I
talking to
want.
you, man. Go ahead.
Let's talk about AI because I love
Oh
AI.
yes.
That's one of my favorite subjects in the world, man.
You know what,
Because I'm
man?
building cool stuff with it.
It's funny that you say that because I actually was introduced to it by my brother-in-law, and I had never
Okay.
used AI the way I do now, and I do use
Hmm.
it quite extensively. So it is a good topic that we can talk about for
We'll
sure.
do
So
that one next. Yeah.
absolutely. You want to say anything? Any last things?
Me? No, I want to thank you. Oh, you know what? Let me throw some shout outs, okay? One to
Okay.
George Stillaportis, the maker of Probotech and the PyroSense software. He's a cool cat. The world needs to know about him. He's an awesome dude. He's a brilliant computer programmer. Mark Lampides, Electro Telecom. He's the first website I built when I started the company, and a great friend of mine. He's my counselor. He's my business partner. We do a lot of things together. Shout out to him. I want to say a shout out to anybody who has anybody in their family with Alzheimer's. That you know
My
what?
mom.
That's a tough one right there, guys. Really, you too? That's
Yep.
hard, man. And my heart is there with you. It's not an easy thing. It's probably the worst way to have somebody that you love go through that. And I just have a lot of care and sympathy for people that have that situation. And you know what? I don't usually say this very much, but I would like to thank God for letting me be on this show.
Amen. Amen. I appreciate that.
Thanks,
Well,
man. Yeah.
we're closing out. I really did enjoy having you on. And we definitely are going to have you again. I will have a replay, and I'll put all the links for you, your soon-to-be channel, etc. All those things in, so everybody will be able to get to it.
We'll see.
I didn't have. I don't know if I saw anybody who was a mod. Maybe I missed it. Brandon was, and I wasn't paying attention. Normally, I would have them put those type of things in there, but we'll fix it and everything. But this is
Yeah,
your boy,
man.
Craig, otherwise known as Fact of Madness. We're going to sign off. And everyone, like I said before, whether you're on the right side or left side, all I care is that you meet me somewhere here in the middle, because we insist on being on the opposite ends of any coin and any ideal, politically, etc., then we are never going to get to a point where we can agree. So, everybody, take care out there. Peace.
Peace. Thanks, man.